What's going on? Oh my gosh. Am I in that meme that everyone keeps doing about this movie? Bird Box. Hey y'all, it's your Twisted Girl next door here, and today I am doing a review of the movie that everyone's talking about, that Netflix original movie with Sandra Bullock called Bird Box. If you see it, you die. Not the movie. I'm talking about like inside with the monsters. Now, this movie has been constantly compared to A Quiet Place. A Quiet Place being that other movie where it wasn't about sight, but it was about making sound. And everyone's been comparing it. And I actually, in this review, I want to also talk about towards the end why this movie is actually, in my opinion, a lot better than A Quiet Place. So stick around for that. And also, if you want my full review of A Quiet Place, since everyone's comparing about it, I'll put a link to that full review in my description box. When a mysterious force decimates the population, only one thing is certain. If you see it, you die. The survivors must now avoid coming face to face with an entity that takes the form of their worst fears. Overall, I think on its own merit, I think this movie had a lot of great moments in it. I think it built an atmosphere that made it so you were interested. And I think the premise is really cool, no matter how many comparisons it gets to another movie, A Quiet Place, when it comes to kind of the angle that it was going. One of the pros was the pacing. Okay, so this movie, when I first checked it out, I look at the run times, y'all. I'm a firm believer that I don't think any movie should really be over 2 hours, especially a horror picture, because I think if a horror picture does its job, it can be so good, so intense, and so, off-putting or creepy or whatnot, that I don't think anyone would want to subject themselves to something like that for longer than 2 hours. So when I saw that this film was 2 hours, I was a little like, it's gonna be one of those films where like the first hour and 20 minutes is like exposition and nothing happens, and then it's like the last 45 minutes or so, that's when it all pops off. Am I going to have to like slug through the first half? And what I really enjoyed about this movie is that no, you do not slug through the first half. Things get started fairly quickly. The movie does a really great job of intertwining past and present, and it does a really good job of going back and forth, but also really setting the stage of what the stakes are and what's happening. You get into it really quickly, but it doesn't feel necessarily abrupt. The characters, that's another thing when you come to apocalyptic movies, is that I am a firm believer that tropes aren't inherently bad. And when I say tropes, what I'm talking about are things, characters, plot lines, and things that are constantly kind of a constant in certain kind of movies, like, boy meets girl, that's a trope, bad boy, that's a trope. I don't think they're inherently bad. I think when they're done with charm and when you add your own spin to it, they can be very unique, because, tropes aren't inherently bad. They can just be bad when they're so generic that it's kind of like, did you do this paint by the numbers? That's necessary. I actually like those kind of characters in these kind of movies, because it's cool to see their dynamic, but only when the script and the dialogue works to make them unique in their own way. And of course the acting. And the thing that Bird Box did, it made it so that I liked the characters. And I don't mean like, oh, these are all great people, but liked as in I liked that they were there and in this film, and I didn't think, why are you here? Why are we wasting time with this? I actually enjoyed that, and I think they did a really good job of making the characters, although they did, there were tropes, of course, the complaining guy, things of that nature, but it still worked. It worked for the film because the characters, the actors made it their own. The simplicity. Oh my gosh. If you see it, you will die. I mean, it doesn't get more straightforward than that. And it did a really good job of not being convoluted. It was mysterious. You don't really know what's going on, but it worked in the sense of, I don't know what's going on, and therefore I can't really enjoy this. It wasn't like that. It was like, I don't know what's going on, and that is what is also terrifying me in the midst of everything else that's happening. One of the main pros that I liked about this movie was the heart of it. I'm a firm believer that if you really want people to believe in the stakes of your movie, you need to, one, make the characters, at least one of the characters people need to want to relate to, or at least you want one of the characters to win, whether they lose or not. And then the other aspect of it, to raise the stakes, you create relationships that make it so that there's something for these people to lose. There's something for these people to lose out on. And if you do the relationships right, you can make it so that people feel when someone dies, when someone lives, when someone's anticipating something. And the movie did a really good job of setting that basis. One of the cons, this is conditional, of course, and I say it's conditional because, like I was saying earlier, there's mystery, right? If you see it, you die. And the question is, what is it? What is this thing? What is this thing? Oh my gosh. And so if you are someone who you kind of like where things are eventually explained thoroughly, not like totally like everything explained, but you get a gist of what that was or what it is, then you may not like this movie. The second con is, once again, connected to my pro, which is the length. Like I said, it's 2 hours long. Now, what I will say is that I was invested. I enjoyed the 2 hours for the most part, but it was 2 hours. And I will admit, there were moments when I checked out for maybe like 5 minutes. Like, stuff just got real quiet. And I'd been sitting there for like an hour and a half. And I was just like, And then I kind of noticed, I'm on my phone right now. Yes, I thought this movie was scary. Yes, I definitely thought this movie was scary. It's one of those, and this is a great thing about horror, right? It plays on our fears, whether it's realistic or whether it's, fantastical or whatever like that. It plays on your fear. And I do think there's something, so many of us are so dependent on our senses, on certain senses, sometimes to the point where we take it for granted, the senses that we have. And so the idea that you can't see and there's this thing that wants to attack you and things of that nature, it can be really terrifying. And watching the characters kind of go through that and the other things that happen in connection to that, I definitely was feeling the tension. I was scared. Trigger warnings, yes, there are definitely some trigger warnings there. As in, some people have deal breakers when it comes to watching movies, aka does the dog die, sort of a deal. And in this particular case, I'm going to give the warning of suicide. That happens. This movie is stab approved. I really enjoyed it, had a lot of heart, and it delivered with the scares and the intensity. Now, A Quiet Place. So many comparisons to this film. First of all, let's put this in context. For those who don't know, this movie, Bird Box, is actually based on a book. And that book came out way before A Quiet Place did. Okay? So that's for one. So this whole idea that this movie is like stealing A Quiet Place's, plot line with a different sense being taken away is just not true. Now, we all know industry, Hollywood or whatever, yes, it probably got the green light because of the fact that A Quiet Place did so well in the movies and everything, but I think this movie stands on its own. And the reason why I think this movie, I actually like this better than A Quiet Place, is because I felt like the heart and the relationships and the stakes that were built landed better for me. Because A Quiet Place, and you can check out my full review for that in the description box, A Quiet Place also is a movie that depends on the relationships and the heart in the film. It does. It's a film that does that. It's based off of this, it's on this family and what they're dealing with. And there was one aspect of that, and you can check that out in the movie, in my video, that really made me mad about that film, because I felt like it relied so heavy on emotions that it tried to manipulate my emotions to make me feel something for something that felt contrived, moments that weren't necessarily earned. And I think what this movie did, it earned the moments. It earned those stakes without feeling convoluted and contrived, which there were times when A Quiet Place did that. Okay, so did you see a Bird Box? What did you think? Do you think I'm totally off on my assessment? Would you survive if you had to not be able to see? Let me know. Comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. And also, be sure to subscribe so that you are the first to know when I post my videos of all things horror and dark fantasy. Thanks for watching. Let's get creepy together.